Following the conversation between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, we got breaking news that the UAW will be suing Donald Trump and Elon, accusing them of pushing to fire striking workers. This story broke while we were live on the morning show, and one of our super chatters sent it in. So if you ever check out the show, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m., you can be a part of this too. But check this out. Let's read. They say the United Auto Workers Union has filed complaints against Donald Trump and Elon Musk, alleging the two advocated for firing striking workers. So what? The former president and the owner of X held a conversation on Musk's platform. This we know. At one point, Trump and Musk were talking about workers who go on strike for better wages. Trump said, if workers go on strike and you say that's okay, you're all gone, so everyone is gone. Under federal law, a company cannot fire its employees if they are on strike, but you don't got to pay them. So there you go. The unfair labor practices charged were filed with the National Labor Relations Board. The UAW said Tuesday, just hours after the discussion, more than 1 million people tuned into the session. Quote, when we say Donald Trump is a scab, this is what we mean. When we say Trump stands against everything our union stands for, this is what we mean, said UAW President Sean Fain in a news release. Musk himself has been outspoken against unions, criticizing them for creating inequality among employees. Tesla, which is also owned by Musk, is the only auto manufacturer in the U.S. whose workers are not unionized. Bravo, Tesla. Shout out to the workers. While multiple efforts to unionize employees at the company have been made, none have been successful. However, the company has been sued for implementing company policies that prevent workers from unionizing. In filing complaint with Musk and Trump, UAW leadership is escalating its criticism of both men. President Fain has publicly criticized both in recent appearances, including at a Democratic rally attended by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz last week. Let me tell you my thoughts. We have this press release here, which we'll read from UAW directly, filing labor charges against Donald Trump and Elon Musk for attempting to intimidate and threaten their workers. Let me tell you, my friends, I don't care if someone unionizes. I really don't care. If you want to do it, go through the process, do it. It doesn't mean anything to me at all, right? What I don't like about unions is that they don't do what unions are supposed to do. Collective bargaining is incredible. Employees getting together and saying, hey, guys, we should all go on strike unless the company meets our demands. I think that is awesome. Collective power, stand up against those big fish fighting against a little fish fighting against a big fish. All that stuff's fantastic. That being said, unions don't do these things. That's my problem with unions.
So when he said that good for Elon for threatening to fire people that were going on strike, let's get this straight. He actually likes when people go on strike. The problem is that unions don't do that.
Yeah, they don't go on strike.
But
sorry, wait. Like he just described a strike, and then he said unions don't do that. That's very. I'm so confused right now.
Yeah, what the fuck is he talking? Sorry.
I think here I am just trying to be the Tim splainer here, but I think he thinks that you should just get together and talk to your boss. The boss is reasonable. I mean, come on, Elon is a good guy.
He just said he likes when you go on threaten to go on strike. Like if I rewind it, right?
I think that is awesome.
He says,
right? What I don't like about to intimidate and threaten their workers.
So I think what he
Let
said
me tell you, my friends,
was
I don't care if someone unionizes. I really don't care.
Yeah, I just
want to do it. Go through the process.
So after
it doesn't mean anything to me at all.
Had taught after the thing about threatening to fire people to go on strike, I think he just said, "Oh, so what?"
Okay, so it's okay. Well, okay, so yeah, I guess it's the CEO there, and they're right. Of course if you strike, then you risk being fired, and that's a good thing. That's okay. That's maybe what he's.
Yeah, strikes are awesome, but also if you get fired for going on strike, that's fine. And also, I don't mind unions at all, but also good for Elon Musk,
unions do not collectively bargain. There's definitely no evidence of hours and hours and hours and hours. Probably literally, even with the terrible unionization rate that we have, literally hours of collective bargaining sessions that happen, well, not just hours, like thousands of hours, right? Every year of collective bargaining, in which there's demonstrable raises at the end of that process versus the beginning, in which exactly the process that he just said. I mean, it's okay. Should we just listen to this fucker?
Awesome. Collective power. Stand up against those big fish fighting against a big fish, a little fish fighting against a big fish. All that stuff's fantastic.
Okay.
That being said, unions don't do these things. That's my problem with unions. They are not protecting the workers.
Okay.
I have been in 2 different unions, and one was basically meaningless. I worked at a grocery store, was in a union, and they made me join the union. I made something like $40 a day. So paying union dues when I was 18, trying to make money, I'm like, this is insane. How am I supposed to? I'm working every day. Terrible job, stupid job, treated like garbage, and I had to be in the union. Then I got a job at I was a part of the transport workers union when I worked for O'Hare, and they did nothing. They did nothing for me. Because of the union, I was unable to actually advance and try and make a career for myself. So when I was always on time, was never late, passed probation, I got a promotion to be an acting crew chief. It's the step before a full crew chief. So the way it works is you're a ramp agent. You load the bags. You're loading about 5 planes per day. We were working for a regional airline, which are regional jets, Embraers, and CRJs. So about 5 per day, sometimes 4. Not the hardest job in the world. You sit around for about an hour. Your plane comes in. You go work. You wait for 20 or 30 minutes while the plane starts boarding, and then you load the plane back up. Well, I did my job great. Always got everything done. And I said, I am doing a way better job. A lot of these people have complaints. They're lazy. They're burning bags when bags aren't getting, when a bag isn't properly loaded on the plane and the plane leaves and the bag's left behind. It's called the burn bag. I never had those problems. And I said, I think I deserve a raise. I go to the supervisor and I ask him, I was like, if I'm doing really well and I'm like working as hard as I can, like, what can I do to get a raise? And he goes, talk to the rep. And I was like, okay. So I go to the union rep and I say, what do I do to get a raise? Contract negotiations aren't till next year. And I'm like, no. Like, I want a raise. I want more money. Everyone else is kind of just like going through the motions, but I'm trying to work really hard to get ahead. And they go, that's just not how it works. In this union, I can't speak for all of them. That's not how it works. Contract negotiations happen, and they will determine whether or not you are allowed to get ahead collectively. And then I'm like, wait, hold on. So I'm busted. So I have no reason to bust my ass. Okay, all right, I'm going to play video games. Well, 6 months in, before I even got out of probation for the company, they offered up a promotions test, which I was allowed to take. My brother and I both passed. Pretty easy. Tons of other employees couldn't do it. We thought it was easy. Maybe we were overqualified. Instantly, this instantly gave us a promotion. What's called acting crew chief, which I think gave us an extra $1 per hour. What this meant was, as an acting crew chief, if a crew chief, they run a zone room, so they have 10 to 15 people underneath them. If any of them called off or wanted to give away a work day, we were allowed to accept it. But we weren't actually crew chiefs, meaning every year, I think it was every year, they would allow people to pick their positions as a ramp agent. There's de-icing. That was fun. You get up in a cherry picker. It's a blizzard in Chicago, and you're blasting the planes with the icing.
Two things. Didn't he say, maybe we're going to get there, but he said that he wasn't allowed to get a promotion, but the story involves him getting a promotion.
Yeah, he definitely got the promotion to acting crew chief. So I'm very confused about that.
And also in this discussion of unions, I mean, I'm sure he's going to get to all the stats and statistics and, actually, relevant arguments, as opposed to get into the minutia of like how he like cleared the ice off of the ramp or something like that. Which, I mean, I'm not saying that like that stuff's not interesting. I'm just saying, like, in terms of making like a coherent argument,
to be particularly relevant to his argument right now. Yeah. I mean, it was funny.
Like, I'm about to teach like argumentative, like making like a composition, first year composition, right? So if there was an entire paragraph at this point, in this discussion of whether unions are good or not. Although, Tim has a lot of fans, so maybe this is just the way to do it. Total anecdotal bullshit. that like really doesn't
Well,
get to
it's
the heart
not
of the
even
matter.
like just that, like, you know, I mean, rhetorically effective anecdotal bullshit is usually supposed to be like a clear point to the anecdote. Like this is just, I mean, this is just like this is like bordering on, you know, I had an onion in my belt. This was the style at the time, right? I mean, like
Well, yeah, because also the story contradicts itself.
yeah, like we got the thing about how he was the active crew chief, and then there was something about acting crew chief, and then there was something about how there was no you know, he couldn't get promoted because the union contract, and then he was just going to play video games. But anyway, I was promoted to acting crew chief, and that was cool. It was like, so, you know, there were a few different things that people did. They, you know, cleared out the ice. It's like it just sounded like he got distracted in the middle of the story. But this is good lore for me, right? Because I have had this conversation, a version of this conversation with Tim, but it was much less detailed than this. You know, in the debate I did a couple years ago with well, you know, I guess technically it was supposed to be with him and James O'Keefe, with Tulsi Gabbard as my left wing. You know, she was the person thrown into the panel to be on my side, you know, because this was like 6 weeks before she, you know, surprised nobody by becoming a Republican.
Yeah, shock.
But in that debate, right, I had, you know, been making the argument that James O'Keefe and Project Veritas were not, in fact, holding up the limelight to the powerful, but that they were, you know, gutter level snitches on behalf of the powerful. And I talked about the Ranchi Teachers Union stuff. And I, you know, said, you know, if you care about free speech, you know, you should want to make it harder to fire people for their speech. And I, you know, my only real like factual premise was, if you're in a unionized workplace, it's harder to fire you. Cause you can, you like need to show cause, you know, there's like a process, you know, you can make a complaint, you know, and he just flatly, Tim just flatly denied this, right? He said, oh, that's not true.
All right. Hold on.
Of a journalist.
Bring it in, Tim. You started this conversation with a political ideological statement from you about the importance of unions, completely irrelevant to media manipulation. You started your
irrelevant to media
absolutely. You started the argument from an ideological perspective.
A perspective about media.
Have you ever been in a union? Just side question.
Yeah. What he asked me was, have you ever been in a union? And I'm sure he thought the answer was going to be no. And I said yes. And he asked me which one. And it was a little bit frustrating because I gave him, you know, I mean, I've been in two, right? You know, or yeah, I mean, basically two. One was like kind of an organizing attempt, but, you know, like two, like, you know, unionized shops, right? And I only had time to give the first example before he started talking again. And we ended up, you know, losing that part of the conversation, and we never went back to it. Right. So the first was that I too worked in a grocery store, you know, a couple actually, but only one of them was unionized, you know, Meyer in Michigan, or Myers, if you're from there and you just say the S, even though it's not in the name. I loaded and unloaded boxes from trucks, and I was in the UFCW for that. And I'll tell you, I mean, that union local had 1,000 problems, but it was a dramatically different experience from every other job I'd ever had in my life at that point, right? Because, you know, I mean, I was like, this is like when I was finishing college, right? You know, like I just had a bunch of shit jobs, but all of the non-unionized shit jobs, you know, you know, you constantly had this thing hanging over your shoulder. If you piss off your boss, you'll probably get fired. Right. And this just wasn't that at all. Right. Cause there's a contract that like specified the conditions under which somebody could get fired, you know, what they could get fired for, you know? So like, yeah, at Meyer, I mean, they asked you if you wanted to, you know, they asked you, like, they were like, oh, we've got you know, there's another truck coming in or whatever, right? You got to work overtime. You could just say no. And, you know, go home and and you could get away with that, right? And that was a massive difference. And I started to say something about that, But the slightly frustrating thing is I didn't get a chance to say the other half of my answer, which is that like at Rutgers, I was actually, you know, I was actually like on the elected board of my union local for years, right? You know, so you know, and that's also an example where, because in fact we did go on strike after I, you know, I mean after I my reign of misleadership was over, you know, and they were able to go on strike, right? But they but like
just shows that they couldn't do it without you.
you know, but it's like after my, you know, couple of years in the board were over, like a couple of years after that, right? You know, we went on strike, and in fact do make significantly more money now, right? You know, which would seem to be evidence that that is still a thing that happens in the world. Right. So I don't know, Tim. Got to leave the skate park and like talk to more people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I know we're wrapping up. I mean, to have any real serious conversation about wages, you obviously have to look at the average wage in that sector, or at the non-unionized competitors, and at your grocery store. And again, I'm sure there. I mean, not again. I mean, possibly there's exceptions. I'm sure there are, just like any trend, right? But the trend would definitely, I would be willing to bet money that the unionized grocery stores, even with, even with the dues, right, are, because otherwise, why would they fucking do it? They wouldn't want to do it, right?
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
So
nobody would say like they just decertify it the next year, right?
Exactly. And any contract that like usually almost any contract that the workers would actually sign off on, because they have to democratically vote for it, the raises that you're getting are almost always, or are always going to outstrip dues, unless something went horribly wrong. But you know, and I think that we have to, when Poole cherry picks bad unions, I mean, obviously there are tons of unions that I think most of us on the left think, you know, could operate better, if not most of them, right? Just like a lot of different institutions. But it's kind of just like, I was talking about this with a friend who's in a union who's really not doing that much right now, and it's like that's a really serious problem. You know, it's not like those unions don't exist, but I just see a union as like, okay, you guys have teamed up, right? Now maybe your team is doing badly. You're not doing what you should be doing, but at least you have a fucking team, and there's the potential there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like, you know, and honestly, even if you guys, you know, like are not being very effective after teaming up, and you know, and like, you know, you don't have a good plan and all that stuff, like, you know, you're still probably you're still probably going to be, you know, net after dues, right? You know, making a little bit more money, right, than you were before. And it's definitely going to be harder to fire you, right? Because like there's a contract that like lays this stuff out. There's you know, the team can come to its members, you know, back, right? Like it's that's which is all just like really just basic shit about how the world works. That, you know, I guarantee you all of this was true at whatever job Tim is talking about. In fact, if we put this out as a clip later, I want to put out an open call for anybody who any of Tim's former coworkers to come on the show and give their perspective on this, because, you know, I suspect that his is not going to be universally shared here.
I also like how he says, oh, those unions were totally corrupt. They're totally corrupt. That's what he said in your debate, you know, which is like now the nitty gritty of whether they're corrupt is that he just kind of didn't like how they functioned.
Yeah, right. It sounds like he didn't like the promotion process from his.
I mean, it's also a myth. It's a myth that because there's a union, it means that you can't get a raise or a promotion. It kind of just means it does flatten out the the range. Yeah. I think that it would have to be a very specific type of workplace where somebody would actually make less. It would be the type of thing where, what a union prevents is like someone who comes in 10 years after you started and is below you magically makes more than you, which in a non-unionized place could happen very easily because of favoritism or because it's,
like it standardizes it, which is massively good for most
I guess
people.
unless your parents own the coffee shop or grocery store or whatever it is, maybe that was the problem. No, I think his parents didn't own the grocery store. I don't think. But,
I think it was just the coffee shop, but whatever. I mean, like this is, I mean, he's convinced that he would have like gotten promoted more quickly, to like in whatever way, and God knows, maybe he's even right. I don't trust him on this because one, he's like he's like a absolutely soulless reactionary cretin, and two, like he seems really stoned all the time. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.